Hey, remember the 4th of November. I've been looking at that number or that date since September 8th. When you look on this chart, I got the arrow on here on September 8th when I did this chart, and a lot of people were asking me today to kind of revisit the chart, see how things are going, and see if November 4th was a day that had some impact in the market or not. But before I jump into that, I am going to give a little shout out to the person that helps me run this show. Um, I've been working with Paul McNeil for a little over a year, maybe a year and a half now. When you look at uh, his stuff, is the Crypto Curator. I think he's the best in the industry. That's why I'm hooked up with him. I think he does a really good job, and one of the best jobs of curating all the news out there in the crypto world. And he created the Crypto Watch Daily Brief, and this is his Patreon page. He's a hard worker. He puts all his time and effort into this, and that's why I think he comes out with a great product. So I just wanted to shout him out, and sign up for his newsletter. Get into his Patreon and help him out. Even if you do the $5 a month for the just crypto awareness, uh, you know, it's money well spent, and you are helping out one of the best guys in the industry. So the Crypto Curator, go check him out, and out on there on Patreon, and he's out on Twitter at Crypto Curator. So um, look him up and talk with him on Twitter. So all right, let's jump into the chart. All right, November 4th. Uh, One of the things I was looking at was this. It's a weird pattern, but it coincided with a lot of the trend lines that I was following. All these lines on here are just trend lines. I have some dotted ones and some solid ones, but what it kind of started back here in 2015 when broke this trend line right here to where you had a little bit of a trend change, got a little bit of momentum for the bears here on the ADX, and we'll talk about the RSI here shortly. But what came to be over time was that on these 108 days, there was inflection points in the market. In other words, you're switching from either bearish to bullish, or from bearish to neutral, or bullish to neutral, or some kind of change in the market trend. So there's another one right here. You broke this trend line to the downside, got a little bit of bearishness. Go another 108 days. Go another 108 days. You had a break on this horizontal right here to the upside. You go another 108 days. You had the break on this one that went from a bullish market to a bearish market. And then you had a couple more in here. So you went a couple 108 days, hit this one. This was the low in the market on December 2018. We know that now, and that happened right on that 108-day cycle that started all the way back there. And then you went another 108 days, and then it broke this trend line right here to the upside, and had a nice straight up candle, and then led us up into another bullish market. So we went from a kind of a neutral here to a bullish. Then we went to another 108 days, and we broke this trend line right here, uh, to the downside. But what happened here was we went a little bit more neutral because it broke right here, but then it came back and retested the trend line here. So it kind of stayed in this sideways pattern. As you can see, the ADX was kind of low and everything was kind of tangling up. So it didn't really give us a sense of direction. And the RSI was in this range right in here. So what happened is when I did the first video, it was September 8th. I did this over a month ago, or just about a month ago, and we were at this point in the market, right at this area. And what was happening internally was the you were starting to get a little bit of a dip in the ADX here, but it was starting to increase right about a few days later. The ADX started to increase momentum for the bears, and we didn't. There's a trend line you can draw in here. Right at this, right kind of in this point right here, where it was working sideways and then it finally broke to the downside, and that's where this came into play. And what I was doing was watching this to where I thought we were going to get a retracement all the way back to the 61.8%. which was at 72.31. So I was telling a lot of people to buy around 7,300 on this break, and as we went down, and it went down to the 7,300 right here, that was the buy area. And one of the reasons I really liked it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to blow this up a little bit so we can see what we're doing here. Let's move this out so we can blow this all the way up. Uh, the uh, the break right here at this point moved us all the way down to this, to the 7,300 area, and that's where I bought. And one of the reasons that I liked it as it was approaching the 7,300 or the 61.8%, and I thought it would hold, and where it wouldn't break down even further, because a lot of people were kind of looking at 5,000, 4,000, even 3,000 talk, and this level was pretty significant. And the thing is as the price was dropping here, what was happening at this point was that the bulls just started to, the momentum was kind of changing a little bit on the ADX as the green positive directional index started to come up and the red was dropping, and at the same time we came up out of this RSI right on this dotted line right here is my kind of a support and resistance flip. And we broke down right here to where it got it into some oversold condition, and of course that's where the trend line break was as we went into the really oversold conditions. Then we popped back up out of it, and then we came back and we were back testing this support level right here, right on this low at the time that the bulls looked like they were starting to come in. Now it doesn't really show it too much on the daily, but if you went back into some early time frames, on the hourly or the 4 hourly and those kind of things, you could start to see a little bit of a change in the market. Now, I wasn't expecting two large candles right away like that, but I did expect to find some buying interest in here, and that's kind of what happened as we moved to the upside. Uh, so now we've popped up here, and then we've hit this resistance, which brought us up. Found some selling interest off of this wick right here. But the thing is we've crossed right here on the ADX, and the bulls still maintain control. But losing a little bit of momentum here, but the bulls are still in control, and then they're trying to push this resistance to the upside. So this is like an area that I was thinking that we would see a breakout. And then if you look at the 108 days, this was November 4th on this line right here, and which is today. And I was waiting for something, with this whole 108-day pattern that was going on. I was thinking, well, maybe we'll see something pretty interesting on November 4th. So if you kind of blow this up even more, and you start to bring in this trend line right here, this was an interesting trend line to be drawn in right at this point, because I'm going from this point to this point to this point right here, is the ones I'm looking at, and if you draw this in, this, September 8th, I'm saying wait for 7,300, and then on November 4th, wait for a breakout to the upside. Now we did wick up against this trend line a little bit, but then we weren't breaking this resistance point on the RSI, so you weren't finding enough buyers to push this through just yet, and that's why we went into this consolidation. So I was thinking, well, this isn't the time yet because it's not on the 108 days. Even though I bought down here, I didn't sell yet, so I was kind of waiting it out. And as we were kind of getting into this consolidation period, I was waiting for the November 4th. So what you can see is, and these are little minute details, but this trend line right here, when you draw this out, when you hit these points right here, today was a day that it popped back up out of this range. So it was up against this high right here, and then out of this consolidation zone, and we've popped back above the trend line on the day, on the 108 day, which would be November 4th, and that's the date I've been looking for, and of course we're coming back a little bit off of selling interest. But one of the things is two little things I like to see here. It's a little hard to see on here, but the positive directional index is going to start moving up, and the ADX is starting to increase with it. So when that's happening at the same time it breaks the trend line, unlike when it was doing here, you had a little bit more of a down move on the ADX. This is starting to lip up. It's really hard to see, but on here, but it's just starting to level out and lip up right there. And then the positive directional index is also increasing as the red decreases. So the bulls are still maintaining control and starting to build a little bit more momentum as it levels out right here as the trend line is breaking. So that's a decent sign. of breaking out of this range, because we did pop up to almost 9,500 or so today. I think the high was almost 9,600 maybe. Yeah, I think the high got 9,600, and then we had a little bit of selling off where it's wicking back. But if all holds true, the November 4th, it should be some sort of an inflection point. And I think it's very interesting that we saw the market move out of this range on that date, on the 108-day cycle. So, which is an inflection point, because even though if on this 108 days it broke the trend line here, it came back and retested, and this was the point right here that it said, hey, this is the inflection point of the market. We're going from bullish to a little bit more neutral, and um, here it broke the trend line here, and then the next 108 days it found another thing. So I know this was a weird pattern, and this isn't the only thing I did. I used this as a validator. I wasn't really trading off the 108 days. I was waiting to see if we would see some inflection points around this time period, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to claim victory. Of saying waiting for 7,300 here, and went down to this point, and then it broke out of the sideways range we were in on November 4th. Now we're going to wonder if it's going to hold or not, and right now I still think it's going to, based on the internal indicators that we should hold. Keep working our way to the upside. I feel like we'll see 10K before we'll see 8K kind of thing. If you kind of blow this up, I'll move this line so you can see. Everybody knows that we're on November 4th today. Kind of moving here. A couple of things. If you look at the fib retracement and put the magnet on here, put the fib retracement right here, move it up to the top. Oh, I don't have the, hold on. Let me add the 38.2 in there. As you can see, this move down is right at the 38.2. Let me move this out so you can see the numbers. It's been kind of wrapping around this area, but now we kind of pushed back above it. We kind of worked our way down. I like to see a filter where there's more than 3 days or 3 periods underneath. So right here you had your first close was there or above, and then it was below, and then it was back above, and then it was below, and then you had another one and another one, but this one closed pretty close. It was really hard to tell if it was a break yet or not, but you weren't getting any bearishness in here as this was not growing. It was more the bulls trying to maintain control here. Not momentum was dropping a little bit before it starts to level off here, but so this was kind of holding in consolidation, and then we saw the bust to the upside here. Now, of course, I'd like to see 3 consecutive things above here. To negate or to keep this as support. But I think with the trend line break and this happening on the day that it did, I think all of this is kind of working together pretty well. So I feel like any dips down toward 9,300 or so, or even in 9,200, 9,300 range, I think we're going to find some buying interest, and pretty soon I think we're going to work our way back up to see 10K before we see it drop back down to 8,500. So 10.5 instead of 8.5 as we work our way back up to the upside. So look for buying interest on dips. I really like that we saw some action on November 4th. Worked out really well. Kind of pumped about it. And again, I wasn't trading off of this. This was a validation off of a lot of other stuff I look at. I wouldn't trade off a pattern like this, but I definitely use it as a validator and look at it as a time period to look for to see if anything happens. And doggone it, we saw something happen on November 4th. It was awesome. So I'm declaring victory on this, and we'll see where we go from here. But I'm buying on dips. Actually, I'm not buying here because I already bought at 7,300. I did not sell here, so I'm not. I'm just continuing my long to the upside for me personally. But I think we're going to see buying on dips toward 9,200, 9,300 range. So hopefully this was somewhat clear and concise. I know there's a lot on this chart and a lot of craziness going on, but again, I'm out on Twitter, FiboSwanny. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, DM me out there or send a message. And if you like what you see here, retweet, subscribe, tell your friends. Trying to get my subscriber count up, and I'm starting to get there, but I feel like you know, if we get some more in here, we'll get some more discussion and some more ideas of what to look at and those kind of things. So, retweet me out there. All right, happy trading and peace out.